Hey everybody, welcome to another show of Tony's Show. And tonight I'm going to go into a lot of different things as per usual. I'm pretty varied and kind of wild sometimes. I've been watching a lot of TV commercials. I, for some reason, have been feeling this curiosity because I'm seeing a lot of things today. It's amazing. The subtle sabotage in advertising, it's just stunning to me. They got a product out now you can rub under your eyes. It'll take away wrinkles in 5 minutes. You've got brand new looking skin you can put under your neck and it takes all the wrinkles out. This is all nanotechnology, nanosilica, and a bunch of other nanometals they're having you put on. And when you're putting them on the wrinkles along the eyes and forehead, you can take away the crease lines from your forehead and you can take away the crease lines on your neck. All this goes into the lymphatic or directly into the brain, and then you get the fun of these harmful nanometals that are getting absorbed in the skin. But what they display is the end result of the smooth skin. Now, most people today do not have much in the way of understanding even what they're reading. If it gets past kindergarten mentality for the most part, and I'm not kidding you either. I'm not being condescending or I guess aggressive or whatever. I'm telling the truth. Most people do not have the capacity to read much past 5th grade level, and they understand even less a lot of times. They know they can read the words, but a lot of times they don't understand what is being said. So when you read these components, a lot of times they're buying the product without even examining the content of what they're buying. And they do this in such a subtle way. Oh, look how good you're going to look. Look at the wrinkles under your 5 minutes and you're brand new. You look like you're 20 years younger. And what woman wouldn't fall for that? So for those of you who think I'm a bit sexist, let me also include males that also have this vanity effect. Most guys don't care what they look like, especially when they get older. After they've been through the war in life, you get to a point that easy is the best way to go, and we don't need all the frills and thrills. If I can get up every day, have a good meal, and get through my day, I'm happy. I shave, cut my hair, keep myself hygienically clean. That's it. I don't need to look 20 years younger. You know what? I've earned those gray hairs. I've earned those stress marks on my skin. Hell, I've been through a war. I'm still in one, so I don't need to look pretty. But and that's just my take on things. We all want to look good, and I get that. But seriously, this concept of not reading anything you're buying, and again, they propagate this on television, and a lot of people get sucked in. Then I watched another commercial. They got this HD TV. It's a little antenna thing you connect to your television, and now you can get free television anywhere, any place, anytime. The guy's saying he's in a boat in the middle of the Gulf and he's getting television. And so when I was watching this, and I must have seen this commercial a million times, well, not a million, but I've seen it regularly here and there. But this is the first time I caught him saying that they've got a digitized signal on top of the antenna, and by law they're required to put a digitized signal. I said, son of a bitch, what is this guy saying? He's basically saying they got terahertz signals coming from the top of the antenna. This is going along the lines of what I've been saying about 6G already being utilized as a weapon, and they're using 6G technology, not 5G. And so again, because and that makes sense, because the 5G would never be able to reach the distance required to have television. Okay, in order to be out in the middle of the Gulf, you would have to have a terahertz frequency that would be able to transfer that signal from the antenna to that television. Okay, and 5G can't do it. It just doesn't have the range or the capacity to do that, but 6G does. So when you're looking at that, I looked at that, and I was, look at this, and again, what did they got you looking at? Oh, they got, for the guys, the old-fashioned guys like myself, those that still have some testosterone left, or functioning testosterone. We look at sports, right? We look at basketball and football and baseball and hockey and soccer, and sometimes we look at golf. If we want to lose our testosterone, we'll watch grass grow, watching that game. race car racing, Indy 500. I mean, we watch these things because it's one of the few places left where testosterone can still have a place in the system. And then they got the other shows, the cooking shows and the glamour shows and the whatever show people watch, entertainment shows, whatever. And so they get you looking at that, and they got a widescreen TV, and it's got nice color configuration, and they got all these channels floating through the thing. And I thought, well, what do you know? Terahertz frequencies being activated, hitting your any kind of receptor. I mean, some stereo systems would work on the same principle, and it's being pumped through, and they're selling you these units for $19.95. You can buy 2 for whatever. When I watch these commercials, I'm one of those guys that when I look at things, especially today, I look at all the innuendo and the bullshit that we're going through currently. I'm just watching a little skit about Mr. Trudeau taking away, military-grade weapons in Canada. The reason why he's taking them away is because he says you don't need an AR-15 to kill a deer. No, we don't need an AR-15 to kill a deer, but we may need an AR-15 to keep the government in check. See, we in Canada, and I'm speaking now to Canadians, just so you know, we have an F-tard running this country. I don't care what your stand is, whether you're conservative or liberal, we have an F-tard. Australia went down the same road. Australia had themselves disarmed. Their crime rate jumped up to 80%. Now, let's say you're living in any of the big cities, in any of the major provinces, or any of the provinces. It doesn't matter whether you're in Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, Labrador, whether you're in Manitoba, whether you're in Saskatchewan, whether you're in Alberta, BC, Nunavut, Northwest Territories, Yukon, doesn't matter where you are. You're in a major hub, crime is already up, crime is already high. People are poor people or people who don't have things are break-ins, so people are getting shot. And especially I have had a guy walk in my shop, and this guy must live in a war zone because every time I see him, he's got a new set of stitches on his body. Depending on what kind of crowd you hang around with, that could happen. It's just the way that's life. That's the way it is. That's life. I grew up in the ghetto, and I know what that's all about. And anybody who's lived in any of the big cities in Canada, look, and this all came about. I was living in the big cities in Canada. You are going to deal with crime, and sometimes having a 9mm semi-automatic is probably the main way of keeping the criminal element away from you. I'm well aware of the fact what that's all about. Like I said, I've lived with it myself, so I know how that game is played. And this has all come about because of the shooting in Nova Scotia. I mean, seriously, this blows me away. 7 years ago, we had an incident in Manitoba where a guy walked in on a train and chopped somebody's head right off. Nothing was done. Now, if that guy had a gun, saw the guy coming at him with that machete, he'd have shot that guy and probably might be alive today, if he had a 9mm. But that's never taken into consideration either. And we're always looking at statistics, and statistics are just bullshit. It all depends on how you create the statistic in order to, again, manipulate whatever you're trying to do. Just like in Canada right now, we got a guy named Tam, the major scam. He's a medical advisor to the Prime Minister and the Parliament. Really? This guy couldn't tie his shoe with Velcro. And because of him, they got these doctors in place because all our politicians, all of them, they all need to be taken out to the back 40 and dealt with, seriously. They have all got invested money in this COVID-19. The reason why we're locked down in Canada is not because we got a health issue going on. That's all bullshit, all of it. But we got our political leaders in this country have all invested in the COVID-19. Mr. Trudeau said he got a $1.2 million inheritance. I wonder who gave him the inheritance. It sounds a little dubious that this came about around this time. Or maybe I read that wrong, maybe whatever. But I mean, my point is, if you look it up, Look at your premiers, every bloody one of them. Look at your councilmen, every one of them. Look at your parliamentarians, every one of them. Look at the prime minister. They all got their money in some kind of corporation or dummy company, whatever, and they have all got investments in this COVID-19. Why do you think they want you to wear those effing masks and those rubbers? What do you think they want you to wear those for? Because we have, like, that's going to stop something? I have never worn those things yet. I have yet to see anybody in the town I live in drop dead from COVID-19 or coronavirus, because they're different. As I displayed in the last show, and I'm putting up that link again on this show. Okay, nobody's dropped dead. Nobody has fallen down. Nobody has had any issue going on. And you know what cracks me up is you go into the stores and into banks and you see these morons wearing the mask and their little rubbers, and everybody around them isn't wearing one. And they seriously believe that mask is protecting them. If we had an airborne plague, seriously, there's no mask, no rubber, unless you're wearing a body condom, and I'm not kidding, a body condom, and you got that thing sealed at the ankles, there's no way you would be able to avoid an infection. None. And, you know, remember the old saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Remember that? That's true. And we've had doctors now, like I said, in the last 2 weeks, one out of California, one out of Missouri or Mississippi, one of those two states. And the guy in California is saying that you have a 0.02% chance of dying of COVID in California, in LA, which has got a bigger population than where I live. And a 0.013% in New York. So now my question beggars my mind is, who gave these bastards the right to tell me how to live? They're not protecting me. But see, this is the thing that none of you are looking at. Those gloves, those rubbers, those latex, whatever, them rubbers, that's what I call them, just rubbers. You know, they're wearing, they got now hand protection, so now they can have safe sex because now they won't get infected with an STD. Oh, ho, ho, you know, so silly and so stupid. But those masks and those gloves are investments, and these bastards have investments in these things. Okay. Bill Gates, and I got an article up on the it'll be in the link too, where you'll see the U.S. government has also got investments in this COVID. There is a mad race to get these drugs out to market so that these countries, these governments, these officials in government are going to make billions. Okay, not millions, billions. And that's all because everybody's capitulating to make these bastards rich. Okay, I have absolutely no use for politics or politicians. I don't think any of them are worth a fiddler's fart. None of them. You know, the only reason they are in power is because they know how to kiss ass real good, and they've done it really well all their lives. And when it comes to corporations and committees and whatever, they have made it into a fine art. They don't care about us. And we need to start looking at things in regarding to about us. We need to take care of each other, because I'm going to tell you something. The government ain't going to take care of you. Zero. The government gives you something, they're going to take something more from you. It's always the case. You know, I remember when the GST taxes was brought in, you know, in Canada, GST, HST, the government decided it would give back a small percentage back to the population, probably less than 1%. And everybody thought, oh, this is great. The government's giving us money. And I'm thinking, are you an idiot? They took the bulk of your money and they're just giving you back a crumb. They're getting the meat and the steak, and you're getting the crumb off the table. But people, like I said, they got a five-year-old or kindergarten mentality. Need to really observe what's really going on here. You are going to lose all rights to your own personal choice in your way of living. Basically, they're going to dictate whether you live or die. They're going to take that all away. All our seniors that we see today, all our parents that are still around in their 80s, that ain't going to happen. After this segment, you may see a lot of them getting euthanized. They may be sent to a center saying that they got a COVID-19. They get them into the hospital and they give them a lethal injection. That would really piss me off, I got to tell you. It would really piss me off. I think at that point, the laws would be thrown right out the window. They would be. And a lot of us would feel the same way. The law is not helping anybody, and it murdered our parents. That's how you better start thinking. That's how you better start observing this. And I'm not just talking about Canada now. I'm talking the whole world. In Canada, we're following Australia's pattern of disarming this country. First, they're going to take away the military hardware, and then they're going to take away your right to hunt. That's going to be next. You know, the natives will be disarmed. And once the natives are disarmed, there's nothing that's going to stop them from going into those reservations and injecting them with whatever shit they want to inject those people, and they'll be wiped out just like they did in Africa. Bill Gates' technology is becoming more and more refined and more effective. When they went to Africa and they went into this one community, I forget, on the Nigeria, I think it was. Okay, in 5 years there was nobody left in that village. Gone. You didn't have to hire an army. You didn't have to buy guns. You didn't have to make bullets. You didn't have to bring in tanks. You didn't have to bring in any kind of hardware. You just gave him Bill Gates, and Bill Gates did the trick for you. He wiped out the village. Took 5 years, but it was a cheaper way of doing it. We're loaded with reservations across this country. Okay, natives live in reservations here, you know, just like they do in the United States, and they're isolated. Okay, nobody knows what goes on in the reservations. We hear the odd tidbit about the news where there's a criminal element going on. They got drug abuse, substance abuse, but we really don't hear what's going on there regularly. Because they're out of sight, out of mind. And once they take out those communities, then they'll start taking out the rural communities. They'll go in and do the same thing because you have no way of defending yourself. Zero. They've taken away the more sophisticated hardware and left you with nothing. Bows and arrows, you know, spears, which can be effective if you know what to do with them. You know, catapults, things like this. My point is, sobering reality is you are losing control over your own life. I don't need somebody to tell me to wear a mask. I don't need somebody to tell me to wear a rubber. I don't need somebody to tell me to do what I want to do. Especially when I can do the research and see that this whole thing's a facade. It's a farce. People are always telling me, well, people have died. Where have they died? Anybody see any death certificates? Every time I look at the media, all I see is empty hospitals. Who died? I'll tell you who died. Those who were in their 80s. And I'm hearing this all the time. The one interesting, unique take I have is I know people all over the world, which is really interesting. As far down south as Australia, New Zealand, as far east as Asia, Russia, the Asian areas, the Middle Eastern areas, East Asian areas, you know, people in India, people in the Middle East, along the Mediterranean, you know, Europe, the Baltics, the Caribbean. I talk to everybody, South America, North America, Canada, United States. You know, I don't think there's a spot on the planet where I haven't had somebody contact me. And it's really interesting. Even South Africa. I've even had people in South Africa contact me. And they're telling me the same shit's going on in South Africa. And we don't hear nothing about South Africa. Nothing. And we hear that Africa's a country that's going through racial turmoil. I wonder who started that bullshit. Who got that going? But anyway, and so as I said, well, it was white people. No, it wasn't white people. You know, and there ain't no. I've never seen a white man in my life either. I got to tell you the truth. I've never seen a black man in my life either. I've seen people of different color and color tones. This I've seen. You know, but as far as that whole black and white bullshit, this was a way and means to polarize us. We are all slaves, and the moment we start recognizing that we are all slaves in this system, then we can get past this bullshit about black and white, purple, green, yellow, brown, orange, orangutan, or whatever. We are all slaves here, okay, all of us. And South Africa right now is also going through some of the similar bullshit we're going through here in Canada, the United States, and other parts of the world. You don't hear about it. I get the odd calls, I get the odd email on that. And they tell me what's going on. I get people, and I don't listen, like I said, I don't believe anything the news tells me. And neither should you. The fake news is not the internet. The fake news is the mainstream propagation that's going on. This is bullshit. I mean, you're being hammered hard. And they're also pumping frequencies in the air to hit you in the head to program your brain, especially if you've got a cell phone. So eventually, after a while, they will wear you out through the media and through the frequencies because you're getting hit on all fronts. This is where you have to have a sobering reality of life and a sobering mentality. And you have to keep your eye on the prize. Okay, the eye on the prize is your autonomy in this system, which we are all going to lose because the majority of the dumbasses out there are still following this media propagation. They really believe this bullshit. It's incredible to me, the state of stupid that this has become. And what they're using as the form of the frequency is fear. I was watching something today and I was listening to this woman talk. And it dawned on me, she was talking like a kindergartner. Somebody who was about 5 years old. This is a full-grown adult. And she was making some comment about, germs are everywhere and I'm protecting my kids and all. And this is placating to those people of that same mentality. Same mindset. They don't know anything. All they've known how to do is grow up, get married, make babies, and that's it. Never study, never read, cook, clean, go get a job, whatever. And that's it. Slaves. Uneducated slaves. And this is what, and I heard this, and I've heard this type of intonation forever, but tonight, for some reason, it was one of those, perk me up, wake up, take a look, listen to this, listen to that, watch this, watch that. Well, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you hear this? Did you hear that? So, holy jeez. It's all around. And I'm watching this through these advertisements on the television. I wasn't even watching it. I was watching some game show or something. It was from the 60s. Password. Yeah, I was watching that. And I'm watching how even in the game, how they were trying, you'd guess the word, they put it up there, and you had to collect the clues to come up with the answer that they had. And again, this was all about mental conditioning and mental training to think the way they wanted you to think. Programming. So I'm watching these ads, and like I said, I was more concerned about the advertisements than anything else, to be honest with you. And I was watching this ad, and I was watching that ad, and I thought, oh, holy jumping, look what they're doing here. And you don't really pay attention to these ads. A lot of times, most of us don't. I mean, if I'm not interested in buying anything, I don't pay attention to the ad. I see it for, watch it for the 20 seconds that it's on and move on. But tonight I decided I was, for some reason, to pay attention to these ads, and I couldn't get over in my head the whole manipulation. So they got this, and usually they always got some kind of young woman, sort of in their late 20s or mid 20s, 20ish, whatever, late 20s. She's got these kids running around, and everybody's all well behaved, and she's talking about, oh yeah, I got germs, and we got germs, and we got to spray this, and we got to wear that, and well, we got this foam now, and we got this mat over, and I'm thinking to myself, holy jeez. But this is the bulk of the population today. I'm glad I went through what I went through in life. I got to tell you, I went through it all, been through this nonsense, saw through it, got exposed, grew up. And the thing is, these people today that you're seeing being, again, propagating this bullshit, they are going to, the people that are watching this are not going to have that time. They're just not going to have that time. They're going to be swallowed up, They're going to be like Jonah in the belly of the whale. They're going to be in that belly of the whale. They'll be swallowed up, and they won't even know what hit them. Because the fear is the factor that they're propagating through the frequencies. The frequencies is emitting a fear, a panic, a terror, a hysteria, a pandemonium, this chaos, and this is what they're pumping into the head. I've been noticing that all week. I've been getting these things going through my head. I'm thinking, what the heck is this? And I recognize it's all artificial intelligence. And don't forget, AI is the tool that's being used to further propagate this agenda. It's already calculated what it needs to do in order to get people to capitulate. This is a dangerous precedent for this situation to occur. Because artificial intelligence is always upgrading and always reprogramming itself. There's not a programmer that does this. There's not a programmer that knows what it's doing or its full capacity. But just from what I researched on it, it has the capacity to teach itself, upgrade itself, modify itself, and have a 93 or plus predictability factor. Now, when you take that into consideration, and it's being used to manipulate the species on this planet, it has now acquired the data and the means to control people. This is something, again, a lot of you do not think about. There used to be a comic out called Magnus the Robot Fighter. If you could ever find a copy of that, you might want to read it. It's a child's sci-fi in a comic book form. But I'll tell you something, that was written in the 50s. And you start looking at some of that stuff, you're going to think twice about what we're dealing with today and what was written, over 50 years ago. Sorry, 70 years ago. 70 years ago. Imagine that. 70 years ago, they were forecasting machinery taking over everything. All people were doing that were around were just governing the people, but the machines did pretty well everything on the planet. They did everything: construct, repair, cook, clean, medical, everything. They knew more about people than the people knew about people. Everything was in a database. And guess what? Guess what? We have an AI system that is now capable of doing the same thing right here, right now. This thing's released about 12 years ago, so we have no idea how advanced this thing really is really. And when you watch that thing about Jay Tuck, AI is killing us, and he was telling us way back, 4 or 5 years ago, that this thing had already superseded our intellect, and it was far more advanced than we were even aware of. Imagine that being accessed to get data, to be able to manipulate all of mankind on this planet. What it would be, what would needed and be required to do. And what would need to be initiated in order to create a fear factor or a terror factor or some factor to come along and to create a base or an anomaly to get people to sway in the direction you wanted them to go into. I've said this before, by 2025, if you're not in where you want to be or gone to where you want to go, you will be locked down no matter where you're at, okay? And they will, at that point in time, you are not going to have any choice whatsoever. We'll have military all over the place, and a buddy of mine who is in the stock market sent me an article about robots and robot investments right now, because the United States, by 2025, half their military is going to be military robots that can go out and kill in the field. Half their military. Guess what? And I said this before, that law enforcement will also have this as well, and that was also in that report. You might want to pay attention. I said this in other shows. RoboCop is not science fiction. RoboCop will be a reality. And whether it will have DNA or DNA strands of any kind or a genetic code, that will remain to be seen. But we will see them either in a drone-like situation like they have in China. China, they got these drones flying around and telling people to wear their bike helmets or to cross the street at the proper places, don't jaywalk, or whatever, and they'll call you by your name. It has that facial recognition quality. Some people are saying, well, you need to be 6 feet apart so the computer can better recognize you. That's all horseshit, pure horseshit. They got you out there so that they can, again, they need to pull you over or come after you for whatever reason. You're by yourself. You're vulnerable. And since you can't carry a gun in Canada, people do all the time. Got news for you. There are people that walk around armed in this country. And the way the government is going, they are going to drive people into a more militant stance. Those who will not capitulate. It'll come, and if you don't take a stand, you're going to basically get assimilated. You're not going to have a choice. Let's put it this way. Everyone thinks you're going to have a choice. Oh, we'll just, we'll kiss the government's ass like we've always done. Right. This time round, you will be chipped. Bill Gates, and I call him Silly Billy. Somebody has sent Aroy a comment, because when I say the term Silly Billy, she cringes, because he's a Jesuit, and he's an elite, and he's one of those Illuminati types and all this stuff. I said to him, well, some people strain a gnat and swallow a camel. I know he's what he is. I know he's a butcher. I know he's part of that whole realm of evil. But you got to learn to mock this. Okay, by giving them this presence of terror and fear or respect. I don't respect this son of a bitch. He's a silly Billy. It's what he is, and he's a murderer. Okay, so instead of bowing down and giving anybody that kind of fear or respect, call them out on that, insult them. They need to feel that they have power, and if they have no power over you because you're defiant, I might get you killed. but they still have no power over you. And besides, if you are a believer, you're going to go home anyway. So what's the difference? Understand that. These guys, I'm not saying these things in a jestful way. I'm saying it because I am defiant. When somebody can take a vaccine and infect 395,000 East Indians and cause genetic damage to a race of people, and then go and spread STDs in another set of vaccines, and now wants to put quantum dot technology inside of a vaccine so that now you can have that inserted inside your body. In other words, putting in a kill switch so that they want to disengage you with a frequency, because now they have and I said this before, that they were using terahertz, and now that they've got now that they do have terahertz on the antenna, you can be taken out anytime they choose. And if they were to get overwhelmed, they say people finally got fed up with their bullshit and decided to assault them, they're going to go underground anyway. And they'll probably send their robot army out to try to take care of the problem. That's what you're dealing with. This is the mindset you've got. They've got. So Silly Billy is nothing but a bloodthirsty murderer. And Canada is the experiment. We're the lab. We are the lab. I got to tell you this. We are the lab. I believe half the diseases that we have regarding to respiratory issues has all been done through nano exposure. All of them. But I also believe that a lot of this has also come as a result of these vaccines that they've injected in Canadians for a long period of time. Respiratory issues is like the #1 killer in this country. Whether you got asthma, cystic fibrosis, pleurisy, tuberculosis, we have problems with our breathing in this country. Now, when you sit there and think about Canada and our landscape in this country, we don't have the industrial toxicity that the United States has. Yet, why are we having? We got more trees and more land mass to keep the air clean. So, what would cause these respiratory issues to be so prominent in this country? Perhaps, maybe, we were assaulted, at some point in time, with a vaccination program that had disengaged the immune system, causing irreparable damage to our genetic code. Perhaps that's what did it. And perhaps guys like Silly Billy experimented on us in Canada, and at the expense of us, the parliamentarians and the leaders and the political leaders all have invested in stocks on these vaccines and these pills and these pharmaceutical agents. This is why this is not stopped in Canada. There's no need to keep on perpetuating this lockdown in this country. We're not dying. Nobody's dying of any great numbers. Everything's being fabricated, but the television will tell you otherwise. And those of you who are stuck on your ass watching that TV will believe the fairy tale. I'll tell you what, get up. Get off your ass. Take a walk on the wild side. Take a drive down to the hospitals. Take a drive down to the clinics. Take a drive down the streets. To go take a walk into the malls. And you may not even need a mask or a set of rubbers. And you might find that people are not dropping dead. Wow, imagine that. But the TV, if I listened to that and never come out of my house, in my mind I would be thinking and programmed to believe that what's going on outside my domain is extremely horrific. It's terrible. The terror out there, the terrorists that are dropping all over the place, dropping all kinds of things, and infections and spreading disease. And oh my gosh, if I'm to believe the TV, that fear will be implanted in your skull, and you will get caught up on the mob mentality and get sucked into a black hole. Imagine that. We are dealing with fantasy. We are dealing with fairy tales. We are dealing with nonsense. Like I said, the only reason why Trump is trying to get America back up. Now, I got to say something about that too, because I think everybody needs to be aware of something here. I'm not a pro-Trumper and I'm not an anti-Trumper. I got to tell you this straight out. I don't really care one way or another. Like I said, I'm not of any political stripe. But I did hear him talk on the YouTube channel where he's saying that America was doing everything in its capacity to contain this COVID, blah blah blah. And I believe that he's, as the President of the United States, he is trying to do the best for his constituents. But I also understand he's the President of the United States. He's a political entity that didn't get there because he was a nice guy. Gotta tell you, I have no illusions about him either. But when he said that they ordered another 500,000 of these masks, or 500 million, I guess, or no, 500,000 of these masks, and brought them into the United States, I kept thinking to myself, why is he doing that? Why is he propagating this mask and these glove things? Why? Perhaps maybe he's got investment in these companies too, and that is not something that should be overlooked. Anybody that's in those positions of power, you got to remember something. They're rubbing shoulders with some of the most affluential corporations in the world today, and those corporations have power. They have power that can rival countries. They have power that can rival governments. And on some level, there is give and take on these situations. But in the end, there's still a propagation and still a conceding to bringing people into the same realm everybody else is going into. You have to seriously start questioning these things. I don't care if they're coming from the President of the United States. I don't care if they're coming from the Prime Minister's office or any parliament. Okay, he swore an oath to the Queen. Now, I thought his father brought the British North American Act over here to Canada to give us our autonomy. But here he swore an oath to defend and protect the principles of the monarchy in the United Kingdom. Now, how does that work? I'm not sure exactly. But whatever happened to swearing an oath to protect the constituents of Canada, the Canadians? Perhaps it's because we have no country. That could be an explanation. We don't have a country, we have a corporation. We live in a corporation. Can you imagine that? We live in a corporate reality. So perhaps he's swearing an allegiance to the head CEO of Canada, because the Queen obviously owns the Crown land, is owned by the British, owned by the monarchy. Okay, what is Canadian? What is actually Canadian? Most people don't know this. What's actually Canadian is the water that surrounds Canada. All of Canada's Crown land. You can never own land in this country. You're basically, when you buy a house, you're leasing that land. It's never yours. You can buy mineral rights, you can buy property rights, you can buy different rights, but the land is property of the Crown. That's the way it is. How it's worded, you need to look at your deeds, you need to look at your ownerships. You might be surprised that the Crown land that your house is built on is owned by the Queen. And when we're looking at that, he was swearing an oath. So like I said, everybody in this country needs to pay attention. And when it comes time to really doing a vote, if you're really going to vote, don't vote based on some political party. Our Prime Minister hasn't done anything. I have absolutely no confidence in our parliamentary procedures of today. I have no confidence in this party that's the leader of the opposition. None. Zero. They are mishandling this whole situation in this country horrifically. Horrifically. How is it that 12 states in the Union never shut down? How is it Sweden never shut down? And when they made a comparison of those states and countries that didn't shut down in conjunction with those surrounding them that did, there was no difference. Zero. People got sick, people recovered, some died. That happens anyway. If we have an elderly population and they have some kind of health conditions already that they're dealing with, it doesn't take much to tip the scale in order to, take them out. But what's worse, what is worse on this, is that the euthanasia is going on in countries, whereas a situation can occur like this, and because somebody is old, somebody is aged, and they're beyond a certain age point, they take them out with lethal injections. You ever walk by a cemetery? Ever walk by and look at the tombstones, and you start looking at how old people died? Okay, in Windsor, I've got a cemetery down the road from me, and sometimes I've walked through there and I've looked at the markers, the tombstones, and the average people that lived at one point in time was about 74, 75. Some lived 20, 30 years. Some people died of an accident, whatever. But the average was about 74, 75 years old. Sometimes you saw somebody that reached 80 or 90. But again, for the the most part, they were dead by the time they were 74, 75. So what happened was the ones that reached 80 or 90 is because they missed them. Somehow they missed getting taken out through either euthanasia, through lethal vaccines, or they just didn't know they were around, and so they got to live out their lives. That's basically what happened. So when we're looking at some of the statistics that we get on longevity, right now the average lifespan in North America is 69.9. It was 86.4 or 84.6, something like that, but around between 84 and 86 years old. Okay. And now it's down to 69.9. What happened? Where did we lose that 16 or 17 year lifespan? Where did those 17 years go? I mean, according to the statistics, we live in a country that is advanced, very advanced. And because we have, clean water and clean air and clean this and clean that, and our food supply is really good, we have been able to propagate and promote longevity in our country just by our environmental support mechanisms that we have created. That perhaps maybe a concept here, but maybe the chemtrails has something to do with it, since we got nano dust all over the air. Maybe the food supply is no longer safe anymore because we've added genetics and nanogenetics with the food supply, again causing more damage to our genetic code, turning off our DNA. Perhaps maybe because the vaccines that they've injected into people have shut down their immune system or their programming to engage the DNA or engage the immune system. Could that be? Could it be maybe because the work environment that people worked in were toxic as hell, and again, as a means of being exposure to solvents and other aerosoling that was in the air that caused them to rapidly die? See, we have to start thinking, a virus, really? If this thing was as bad as they say it is, seriously, Canada, from pillar to post, top to bottom, would have been infected. This would have gone right across Canada. Those chemtrails that they're spraying, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and other things can transfer themselves on those metal particles and would have went right across the country. That's why you're not seeing so much chemtrail spraying as much as normal, because if they have released something in the air, they can't run the risk of it getting out of control. But I'm still seeing chemtrails here. I saw one the other day, looked like a big turd floating in the air, and it looked like it was dropping something. It was like it was just sort of floating in another cloud, and something was coming out of it. If it starts to rain, if it starts to snow, if it starts to hail, you may want to get out of that environment and get indoors as soon as possible. Put a hood on your head if you can to minimize any exposure to the skull. Nanoparticles will permeate through everything. At 0 to 50 nanometers, it goes through everything. And we're talking picoscale, it's even smaller than the nano. So, like I said, we have been completely focused on this so-called fairy tale, funky bunky, false pandemic. We need to take a look at really what's going on. They've robbed the bank, they've robbed the stock market, they're going to rob the banks next with the pensions. They're going to rob the cash out of the system. They're going to now try to inject a digitized system inside your body. They're going to do what they've done in China. You're going to be monitored like a frickin' program. You're going to have robots all over the place telling you, oh, you're sick, you need to go to a doctor. Oh, you're sick. You're going to be told what to do. Some of you may need to have that because you don't have much of a brain cell. And I'm not talking about people who are awake, and I'm not talking about people who are educated and sophisticated enough to know what's going on. But the rest of you that might perchance somehow listen to this program, some of you don't have enough brain cells in your. You only have 2 brain cells in your head to create a spark. So you need to be told what to do. You need to be directed. You need to be herded. You need that. because you don't have a clue. You don't read, you don't study, you don't do anything. You just sit home, watch TV, have a meal, whatever, and that's the extent of your life, you know. But the rest of us, the rest who can read and function and interpret what's going on, we need to come up with solutions. Okay, that's the next step. Reading, understanding, being aware of what's happening, and then coming up with solutions to countermand what's coming. That's how it works. And then test whatever it is you're doing. This is how things have to get done, you know. If they take you away or decide that you can't stay in the society any longer because you refuse to become one with the society, which will be the next pile of rubbish and bullshit that they'll propagate. You got to be one with everybody. No, I don't. I ain't got to be one with anybody. Only thing I got to be one with is with my Creator. I don't have to be one with anybody else. That's the bottom line there. I don't have to be one with anybody. You know, I'm, you know, not getting married. I don't plan to anyway. And I do one day. I'm going to stand before my Maker and have to give an account. I better be one with Him for sure by that time. So, like I said, the way they strategize. They are word crafters. I'm not kidding you. The wording, how they word things, they don't come out and tell you that they're going to screw you. They'll smile at you and make you feel like you're the king of the world, the queen of the world. Oh, yes. And meanwhile, while they're buttering you up and kissing your ass, they are now taking you down to the guillotine to basically decapitate you. This is how it works. This is how the game is played. You know, they don't butter you up for no reason. You know, there used to be a song long time ago. You gotta remember, I grew up in a very unique environment, you know, and it was called Smiling Faces. You know, I don't know if you ever heard the song Smiling Faces. Sometimes they don't tell the truth. You know, beware of the handshake; it hides a fist. You know, something about oh hell, I can't remember the words now. It's been a long time, but there. Something about a knife in your back. Alexa, it's been a long time. So, but anyway, the point I'm trying to get here is this. You might want to go listen to that song and read the lyrics. You know, a lot of things were going on back in the day, back in those 60s, and I grew up in that environment. And I'll tell you something, it was a time to be educated because either you got educated or you got smoked. And there was a lot of warnings that were coming out in the music industry back then, letting everybody know what was happening, you know. And that's one song I think some of you may want to listen to and apply it to the government and to the banks and to this current system of bullshit going on. When you see Silly Billy coming to your country or Silly Billy talking on the airways, okay, Silly Billy, always have in mind he has no good intended for you. He is planning on using us in this country as an experiment. And you know what? We are going to come apart at the seams from within. Okay? We don't have to worry about somebody attacking us from without. Who wants to attack Canada? You know, think about that. Who wants to attack Canada? But, well, there might be some people. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Trudeau has pissed somebody off. But as a whole, nobody wants to attack us. Not really. You know, but the pharmaceutical industry does, the drug industry does, governments do. They are trying to disarm us. They're trying to make us dysfunctional. They're trying to genetically alter us. They're trying to reprogram us. That I call an assault. And I think we need to be aware of that reality because, like I said, it's not going to be, we are not going back to anything. Okay, anybody think, oh, well, things are going to go back to normal. Normal? What the hell is normal? It wasn't normal when it was normal. Okay, we were being screwed left, right, and center even then by the same people. Now, and they were playing with us like a cat plays with a mouse. Now they've engaged the claws, and now they're ready to sink them into the mouse to consume. Take a look at these links. You know, there was a buddy of mine in the UK. He sent me something about the Public Health Act of 1984, and he's saying now it has become fully engaged. And I think if you're in the United Kingdom, you might want to read that and pay attention to it because you're about to get into the position that they've got us here in Canada. The only difference is you're going to have to probably do the same thing we are. You're going to bring your own lubrication while they jam it into you, because this is what they're going to be doing. And that may sound crude, and I don't apologize for it, because that's what they're going to do. Have a read on that. This is not something, and again, if the motherland, the United Kingdom is the motherland, if the motherland is going to engage this, you can bet your ass Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, South Africa, and any other British colony or ex-British colony is going to engage this as well. This is how they roll. Okay, so take a look at that. Somebody sent me something on a drug called thalidomide. It was a drug used back in the 60s to help people with sleep, and they said it was even safe for pregnant women. This is what I'm saying. When you read this or watch this video and you see how they have been propagating this false sense of security with their pharmaceuticals, sorcerer's death's construction, as the song says, you'll see how thalidomide was propagated as one of the best drugs. It was next to aspirin. It was the second most sold drug at the time. It caused severe birth defect damage, genetic damage, and yet the drug company never was held accountable for the damage it did globally. I think honestly, and this is just me, speculating, but I think if every country in the world was armed, just like the United States or some other countries like Europe, or like the United Kingdom or France, Germany, Italy, or whatever, Spain, if some of these countries were armed of similar stature as, like I said, U.S. and some of the other European countries, part of NATO alliance, they would have attacked Germany, or they would have attacked the drug companies in the United States. They would have attacked America. They would have attacked Canada, without a second hesitation. The general population would have demanded reparations, and the general population may have even demanded vengeance for the family members that would have had to now suffer the rest of their lives with these handicaps and genetic damage that would not have occurred if they hadn't taken the drug. I sent you pictures of the CDC a little while ago showing you what the vaccines actually do and how this is more prevalent than what they show you. The media is the worst frickin' thing ever. Ever. It is the #1 weapon of mass destruction. These TV networks need to be terminated. Once television is gone and once the cell phone has been disconnected, I think everyone might get their brain back. It's a possibility. Technology is not ever going to stop, but we need to really evaluate what technology we really want to utilize as in our lives. Because if that technology takes over and you no longer have the capacity to think for yourself or determine for yourself, or decide for yourself what you want to do, how you want to live, or even how you want to die. They're basically taking that away from you too. You're not going to be able to die unless they tell you, unless they kill you themselves. Seriously, they become God and executioner all in one token. Like I said, this whole thing has been, and I said this from day one, this thing was a farce. It was bullshit. It's still bullshit, and as long as you keep listening to the media, the mainstream media, okay, the fakery, can't say the other word. I'm going to use the new F word, but substitute U instead of the A. The new fakery that they're putting on everybody, and they're doing it in such a manner that, people are, again, it's just sliding by. It's like I was telling you, I watched those commercials today, and I had seen these commercials before, and before it just slid by because I wasn't paying attention. And when I started actually looking at these things, I saw the how they were maneuvering the sabotaging of the people. So again, seeing that and seeing what I've going on, what's going on right now, it's just like I said, TV should be banned. Banned. Nobody should be able to have the right to own a television. If they're going to take away your right to own a gun, then everyone should have the rights of ownership of television should be taken away as well, because it is more lethal and more toxic than any gun could ever be, because it poisons you progressively and programs you continuously. I think television should be banned. I think cell phones should be completely banned, removed. That has basically that alone has created such a heavy disassociation among ourselves. We have become isolationists anyway. So like I said, when we're looking at these things that they have, these toys that they have initiated with us, again, I think they should be banned. I think all that should be banned. All these smart devices, smart appliances should be banned. 5G should be banned. 6G should be banned. 7G should be banned. 9G should be banned. They should be completely banned. Not in anybody's country. We don't need that much power to transmit a frequency across this country. We already have the infrastructure on the lower frequency ranges, on the 12 gigahertz range, and instead of using the 300 or the terahertz bandwidth, that's overkill. It's the same concept that the Prime Minister is saying, well, we don't need an AR-15 to kill a deer. No, we don't need but we don't need a 5G or 6G transit to use these cell phones either, or having television. We don't need that. It's way overkill, and it's killing us. So I think they should be banned. For the same reason he wants to ban an AR-15. I think AR-15 I think everybody should own 10 of them. Seriously, everyone should own a tank. Everyone should own grenades. Everyone should own bazookas. I really believe that. I know some people might shudder at that. Oh, what are you talking about, man? You're going to arm the whole country, yeah? I think we need to do that in this country. Then the government would basically be a little bit less cocky. Be a little less, arrogant, condescending. Because then they would have to deal with a mindset that, and that's what's kept America, I shouldn't say free, but separate, where the government hasn't been able to come right out and take it over. I think eventually they're going to probably lose their rights. They'll somehow, some way manage to take something. Or they'll do the same thing like they did here in Nova Scotia. They'll put somebody in Nova Scotia. He'll kill a police officer. It probably was a military guy that did it. I'm sure if we look out, there was some serious investigation done on that by real media people, not these bullshitters that pretend to be media. CBC, today in Canada, COVID is really having an issue with this country. Oh, and there's Tam Tam, the scam. She's now going to tell us. Or it's not. I don't even know what that is. Can't make it out. I'm one of those guys who have a hard time, trying to figure out what these things are anymore. I know what a woman used to look like, and now I can't even say things are a woman today because of all this stuff that's going on. So, but that I don't have no clue what that is. Tam Tam the scam is what I call it. We're going to now listen to Tam Tam the scam, and she's going to tell us how bad COVID is, and that's the CBC. That's how the CBC comes off, and then all of a sudden everyone's watching the CBC, and they think the CBC is the gospel according to the government, and you listen to that. So, like I said, I think we really need to reevaluate our media. We need to reevaluate whether or not this media is legit. And if we're going to show the Tam Tam the scam, why isn't the media in this country showing all the other doctors across the planet, 26 doctors, world-renowned doctors, saying that this is nothing but what it is? And don't think for a minute that we're going to get, like I said, go back to anything soon. These parliamentarians have a conflict of interest here. They have invested into these pharmaceutical companies. These pharmaceutical companies have basically given them money, bribes, or whatever, and now they, in return, are giving the drug companies carte blanche to our country, or should I say, our corporation. Something to think about. in the next few days. Anyway, on my channel or on the link side, there'll be people there that will be propagating the truth, promoting the truth in any way, shape, or they can. You got Brian 396, you got Aromac, you got myself. So if you feel the need, or if you want to help out in any way you can, financially, do so. If you can't help out financially, no big deal. Share the news, share these videos or audios, share them with everybody. Maybe we'll wake some more up, maybe we won't. Maybe we're just going to maintain the status quo and keep people who are already awake and keep them, encouraged and fortified. Give them the full capacity in regarding to what we need to do and see. I make no apologies of the way I come off. I don't. We are in a war, and that's a sobering reality that we all have to face. We are in a war, and the government is making war against the citizenry. The pharmaceutical companies are making war against the citizenry. Silly Billy is making war against the citizenry. Tam the scam is making war against the citizenry, and the citizenry is still believing. They feel this compulsion to keep on going to the people that abuse them the most. I'm not sure how that works in Canada, why it works in Canada, but the more the government abuses people in this country, the more they keep running to them. I don't get it. I never did, never will. We need to recognize that when they're abusing us, we need to tell them it's time for you to stop and it's time for you to go. That's what we should be saying, not saying, we'll kiss your ass some more. That needs to stop. We are never going to evolve. We are never going to grow. We're never going to change. In fact, this will lead us to our demise. We are going to go down with Australia did. I'm going to tell you what happened with Australia. Once they get that one gun away, the military issue, once they get that away, they're going to now take away from you your hunting guns. You watch. And when that happens, the criminal element will keep their guns. And there's not enough police in any of these communities or towns. They're going to be able to enforce that law. And the criminal element now will have a gun, be able to come into your home and rob you, and there won't be a damn thing you can do about it because you won't have any means of protection. Period. And what happens is if you do protect yourself, you go to jail. This is insane. What happened in Australia, shortly after they passed the law, some farmer was out in the county, and two guys broke into his house, and they were armed, and he shot one of them and he killed him. And he wounded the other one. Where he made his mistake, he should have shot the other one and made sure he was dead too. And that may sound hardcore, but what happened afterwards, he wound up getting 10 years in jail for defending his property. That's why I'm saying he should have just shot him, turned him into fertilizer, been done with it. Who'd have missed him? I mean, that sounds heartless, and maybe that sounds a little bit callous, but until that starts happening more so in this country, you're going to see that, and you're going to see that, and may come your way. And so you might say, well, I'm not saying for you to be a bloodthirsty killer. I'm saying you have a right to protect yourself, and you have a right to bear arms, and you have a right to have that right. Okay? We are a sovereign people. So, like I said, if that's next, and that's what happened in Australia. Their crime rate jumped up, I think, 70 to 80% after they took those guns away. And I don't know where their crime rate is right now. And I'm sure the Australians have compensated by getting guns through other means and other channels. I'm sure of it. So, because wherever you have laws to say that you can't have something, somebody will come up with a way for you to get it anyway. That's how that works. That's the law of reciprocity. Create unfair laws, people come with illegal means to defend themselves against those unfair laws. That's the way it usually works. It's how it always works. All right. Wow, I went that far. Till the next segment, to your health. Think about these things. Share this information. These are things to ponder out. Read those links so you can understand that we are in a war. This ain't going back anytime soon. And start thinking countermeasures. I forgot to mention real quickly, they're creating the famine. They're dumping milk. They're dumping eggs. They're killing livestock. They're killing cows. And the way this is going to work, because I was going to talk about this earlier, is that a lot of provinces and states are going to come back online, and they're going to come back in some sort of pattern or whatever. And when these restaurants reopen, they're going to need food. Where are they going to get it? Oh, I know. The food that was designated for the general population is now going to get dipped into by the corporations or the marketing restaurants that are out there, commercial restaurants that are out there that are going to need food. So that's going to put a terrific strain on the food access to the general population. So that means the price of food may quintuple. Okay, quintuple. I've been telling people don't be surprised if milk is like $5 to $10 a gallon, maybe 15. We don't have the milk, and and the government has to make up that revenue that they gave everybody for the next couple of months. They got to make it up some way, so they'll inflate the cost of everything so they can get the higher tax revenue back to fill the coffers again, so they can invest more into the drug companies. Start thinking. The government doesn't give us anything for nothing. Don't feel that, don't get coddled with their handout. It's not their money anyway. It's your money, or it's the money of the people that were in the stock market that they stole. So, like I said, keep that in mind. Start now. If you go grocery shopping and you got to go to 2 and 3 stores to get whatever limitation you got to get, grab cans of tuna, corned beef, meat, mutton, whatever you can get in the can, and start stockpiling. I start stockpiling canned milk if I were you too. If you can get dried eggs, dried egg powder, or dried egg yolk powder, I would order that. Gelatin, collagen, I'd be picking that up. Whey protein powders, I'd be picking that up. Make sure they're clean. Don't buy shit in it that has soy or silica or other contaminants, because if the food supply should go bad, access to alternative health may also be limited as well. So if you do eat these things that have these poisons, you may break down, and as a result you may not have access to what you need in order to neutralize what you've done. So try to keep it as clean as possible, and start thinking powdered milk, canned milk, pickled eggs, fermented foods, cheeses, fermented dairies, things that will hold a long time in a cool place. That's what you got to start thinking, because come fall, I expect wave 2 to be already on, and this time around, food will be the target. Food will be the target. So, and they will again manipulate something. They're going to coerce people. Like these dumbasses that bought the toilet paper. I keep saying they can eat the toilet paper now and wipe their backside as it comes out. I mean, it's all one-stop shop now. Eat this, watch that, Be aware of these things, Be aware of these things. Even foods, even candies, which may sound far-fetched, but there's a means to my madness. If you can get a chocolate or a cocoa bar, baker's chocolate, whatever, and store that, okay, it's got antioxidants and it's got fat, saturated fat, and if it comes to a pinch, you can grind that down to a little bit of a powder, take a teaspoon of that, and that may curtail the hunger if you're in a position where you don't have enough. So these are things that you can do. Learn to use liquids as well, making liquid diets. Juices have to be filtered. They have to be filtered with some oil. So if you got some shit oil like canola oil, or which is not canola oil, sorry, peanut oil, use something like that to again filter out the contaminants. Do so. If you have fruit, I don't know what to tell you on that, because it's going to be loaded with nano. Some are going to say we're going to need to eat something, and I agree. I'd probably tell you to try to preserve things like pineapple, oranges, citrus, because the citrus has potassium and magnesium in it, and citric acid, which can go a long way in helping you protect against aluminum poisoning and helping the aluminum flush out of the body. So these are some ideas I'm throwing out at you. Again, consider what I'm saying, read this information, and then take it from there. Alrighty, until the next segment, to your health.